SWAT 4, developed by Irrational Games, is a first-person shooter released in April 5th, 2005. As you could probably tell by the name, it is the fourth installment in the SWAT series. It was met with praise, mostly due to the refinement in the core gameplay that they had been crafting since the beginning. The main goal in SWAT is to kill or arrest the suspects and rescue all of the civilians. This objective can be completed in a multitude of different ways, whether you're using CS gas, beanbag gun, or issuing commands. And the best part about all of this is that you get a chance to prepare for the mission, like choosing equipment, point of entry, or just listening to the briefing. While the gameplay is outstanding, I can't say the same about the AI. Their actual pathing is good, but they didn't program them to take it easy and enter a room slowly. If you send your team to clear a room, at least one or two of your teammates will be killed. It takes away a lot of the fun of working with your team, and instead you have to rely completely on yourself. I don't like this, considering that the entire idea of the game is teamwork. Shifting back into a positive view, the maps are all amazing. The pacing for all of them are great, and as a cherry on top, they made each of them very distinct from each other and give off a gloomy atmosphere. Another thing that I appreciate is that no matter how many times you play on the same map, all of the enemies, hostages, and possible items will spawn in different locations, adding an element of surprise each time. I debated bringing up the multiplayer at all, given that people play this game for the single player, but if you're curious about hopping in a multiplayer match, you won't find much luck. The only way that you will get into a game with another person is if you join them directly. And honestly, you are missing out on a lot if you don't have someone to play with, because the co-op is the exact same as the campaign. The graphics still look pretty decent to this day, especially for being released in 2005. Personally, I think the dark color palette complements the game very well. I'm not someone who cares about the graphics, but if you are someone that likes games that's eye candy, then this may be a bit distracting. Sound is very important to me, and I think they did a pretty good job for the time. While I don't love the gunplay, the sound of the guns are still nice. Another sound choice that I loved was the soundtrack. It can make even the lowest consequence encounter heart-racing. Before I give my opinion on whether you should buy or just look into SWAT 4 more, I'd like to talk about the things that I didn't like. What might have made the voice acting so bad is the writing. I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't have a lot to work with, because you can constantly hear the same line repeated over and over again by different voice actors. And that leads into my next point, where they didn't go in depth enough into what the characters' motives were, mostly meaning the enemies. I really wish they gave us more of an incentive to actually care about what was going on by whenever you arrest a suspect, maybe they give you a new piece of information, but no, you don't get any of that. I'll stand by the fact that I love the core elements of gameplay at hand here. What I really don't like is how the guns feel, and at the end of the day, that is very important because those things take up half of the screen. And what would have fixed this is just tweaking the animation slightly. I really wish that they just added more kickback or something to the guns, because whenever you shoot the guns, it feels like you're shooting like a water gun or something. It just does not feel very good. Now, I would say there's a lot of replayability, which there is, but personally, that's where a lot of my gripes with the game come into play. With a lack of guns and unlockables, there's a severe lack of incentive to come back unless you're just trying to beat a score. The voice acting is either semi-believable or it falls completely flat, and when I say falls flat, I mean it jumped off a building and made a cartoon hole in the ground. That's how bad it is. It rivals line delivery from The Room. It is seriously very, very distractingly bad. I would definitely say that the game still holds up very well, and I would absolutely recommend this game. But the video isn't quite over. I'd like to talk about the future of SWAT. From what I've found, there isn't any news on a direct sequel anytime soon, so I'd like to draw attention to a small indie game by the name of Ready or Not. If you knew what SWAT 4 was before watching this video, then there's a good chance you have already heard of Ready or Not. It's developed by Void Interactive and is a spiritual successor to SWAT. This game truly feels like an evolution of what SWAT was, with many of the same gameplay elements refined for the modern era. I can't recommend it to you because it has not released yet and is scheduled to launch into early access through Steam sometime in 2021. I'd also like to address the controversy around this game. I and a lot of other people have been waiting a while for this game, and the more we wait, they keep pushing the game back further and further. What is interesting though is that the developers Void Interactive have partnered up with the publishing company Team 17. Hopefully now development will speed up a bit, but we'll have to see. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you stayed until the end, I really appreciate that. Another thing that I would really appreciate is if you leave a like and sub. It helps out more than you know. This is the first time that I've made a video like this, and I appreciate all criticism. I guess that's all. Peace.